Is engagement the only way you can commit to a person?
Yeah.
Like, he kept asking this question. It's like, no, obviously it's not the only way you can commit to a person, but it's the form of commitment that she wants.
I don't even think Kylee was thinking about her and Aven's actual readiness as much as we have hit the check marks.
Yes.
We have done the things. So where are we now? It was a little bit of like that relationship laddering of like, okay, we've been together for 2 years. We should move in together, right? After moving in, we should probably get married, right? Hey everyone, I'm Julie, she's Kelly, and we're here to find love. We're back again this week for another Bachelor recap. Today we're recapping the season finale of Bachelor in Paradise Season 9. For those of you who don't know us, we're two dating coaches who analyze the relationship psychology and dating themes in reality TV shows, especially all of the Bachelor shows. So if you're into this kind of stuff, hit the subscribe button to follow along and join the conversation.
So we're here in the season finale, and we get to see which couples break up and which couples stay together. We're going to focus in on the main three couples of the episode. So Kylee and Aven, John, Henry, and Kat, and then Eliza and Aaron. Let's start off with talking about Aven and Kylee. So Kylee and Aven, their main thing was basically just that Kylee really wanted to get engaged at the end of this whole process, and Aven didn't. Aven just wants to continue dating in the real world. And it was such a source of tension for these two. They were really having these very tense, emotional conversations about it. It was as if they had been together for 6 years when we're talking about this, as opposed to it's probably been like 2.5 weeks. And it was just so, to me, it was just a little ridiculous to watch and take seriously, considering how short amount of time they've actually been together. It was, to me, a little ridiculous that Kylee was pushing on it as much as she was. To me, it's clear that Kylee was getting a little bit swept up in the pressures of this environment and the fact that there could be an engagement at the end of Bachelor in Paradise. And I think especially seeing the other couples around her who were on the road to engagement, I think that really, she was just getting a little bit like caught up in that. She mentioned more than once that she was jealous of Eliza and kind of comparing her relationship to Eliza and Aaron's relationship. And comparison is always a trap. And I really think that, I don't know if this is like Kylee is in general the kind of person who really likes to move fast in relationships. My guess would be just because she's seeing other people moving fast in their relationships around her, she feels like she should be doing that too. I felt that she was very, maybe like conscious. She kept saying like, I hope I don't look dumb, is what she kept saying. Like if she chooses to leave with Aven instead of without getting engaged. What did you think about how Kylee was approaching all of this?
I never thought that she looked dumb once. And a lot of that was her projection of maybe how she was thinking of herself on the beach. It was clear that out of all of the couples on the beach, her and Aven have had the most consistently stable relationship. They were never really tested except when she was exploring things with, I believe, Will.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I know I did too, because it was such a blip in their love story. They just immediately liked each other. She's always had a huge infatuation with him because of that, like fire emoji in her DMs that has somehow captivated and like set their love story on fire, because she was just obsessed with him ever since he walked down those steps. And I understand that she had an idea of how she wanted things to go because she kept saying that. And I did think it was a little bit of a red flag that she said that she had already picked the dress for the engagement and she had this entire idea, and it did really feel like her expectations were meeting the logical reality of what was actually happening, which is Aaron was not ready to get into an engagement after a 2-week stint on a reality TV show. He wanted to take time to explore her deeper, which I think was fair. The way that he came across was so, it was hard to be in that conversation because I can see that she was like, I want to understand. And he was like, I don't get how you don't think that this is not like, why don't you want to like, like, why don't you want to date? Why don't you want to do this thing? You know, it felt like a duel between mind and heart. He was like, think about it practically. And she was like, but what do you feel about it? And if you are interested in me, then why don't you just want to get engaged with me? I don't understand. He wasn't able to meet her emotionally where she was at. So then she wasn't able to really compose herself and think about things long term. Because even when they rode away in the car, she looked so unhappy. It was not the kind of love story ending. It didn't feel like she was so joyous about this exploration. It felt like she was really let down by who Aven really was as a person, which is a person.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that you bring up so many good points. Yes, in that scene when they left, I was like, she's acting like she's just this like abused girlfriend. Like, whoa, it's me. Look at the way my man treats me. I'm like, girl, he's known you for 2.5 weeks. It's okay that he doesn't want to get engaged. And
it means nothing about you, by the way.
Literally, exactly. I think that she, what was she saying? She was saying, like, I'm fighting for us. I'm like, this is, what? She had,
it's like, not a fight.
Funny, I know. She had this, like, funny little narrative in her head that she's like, oh my God, like, she's just going through it with Aven and she's gonna put up with anything to be with him. I'm like, this didn't need to get to this point. And I love that you brought up that Aven was also being like difficult in these conversations. I think they were both being very like dense, or like it was like they were both being intentionally like obtuse in this conversation. Like it was like Aven was saying things like, it's always about a fucking ring, and it's like, you obviously know that it's not about the ring. It's obviously that the ring represents something to her. She's looking for a lifelong commitment, and that's what she's talking about. She's not talking about the ring. So I don't know why he kept saying things like that. Or he would be like, is engagement the only way you can commit to a person?
Yeah.
Like he kept asking this question. And it's like, no, obviously it's not the only way you can commit to a person, but it's the form of commitment that she wants. So this discussion is pointless. And the way he was phrasing it was making it sound like he's not sure about getting engaged ever, which I don't even think is true, because in the moment interviews he talks about like how important a proposal is to him and he only wants to do it once. So it sounds like he is interested in eventually getting engaged and, you know, marrying her or someone. But the way he was talking about it to her face was like, why does it have to always be about an engagement? Why can't two people just date and be together? And it's like, she doesn't want to just date. Like, why are you talking about it as if the engagement itself is the problem? Because it sounds like that's not actually the problem. The problem is just that your timing is different. She wants it now, you want to wait a little longer, and that's more what the question is. But I think it was like he was getting fixated on his frustration about the engagement pressure. Like he got like a little fixated on that, and instead of actually like dialoguing with the things that she was saying, like to your point, like he wasn't even really trying to understand her or like trying to help her understand him. It was like he was just pushing up against the idea of engagement as a goal in general, and he was just so focused on like pushing against that goal, and it's just completely not useful because Kylee wants to get engaged one day. So it just, why are you focusing on engagement is bad instead of just saying, I don't want to get engaged right now? So I just feel like the focus of the conversation was completely wrong, confusing. If I was Kylee, I would also be a little bit like, wait, so you don't want to ever get engaged? Like that's what I would have walked away from that conversation with. Even though I don't actually think that's what he meant. I think he was just getting a little bit, I think he was just being obtuse.
Well, one, I love all of the science disses that you're using to describe this conversation. Dense, obtuse, or mathematical. I don't know what it is, but you made so many brilliant, like, nuanced takes into this misaligned miscommunication that they had with each other. It's like they weren't even on the same page with what they were asking for or what they were needing to get clarity about. Aven was so fixated, you're totally right, in this idea of feeling pressure, and maybe a little bit, it felt like he was backed into a corner almost, because I have a suspicion that they have been a light, frothy, chill, casual couple. Okay, this is the last 2 days of paradise. That's when Kylee was saying, okay, where do you now see us? That conversation in the 11th hour is a very difficult environment for someone to then have this really big, substantial conversation about. It's just so difficult, and it's really, really hard. I do think there was something about Aven that felt like he was just like, like, get off of me. Like, I don't want to talk about this. And Kylee is just approaching him and being like, but that is the purpose of the show. That is why I'm here. This is how I feel about you. This is what I would assume would happen if we are still together at this point, that we're going to get engaged, because that's what happens to couples on this beach. It gets we get engaged. And I don't even think Kylee was thinking about her and Aven's actual readiness as much as we have hit the check marks.
Yes.
We have done the things. So where are we now? It was a little bit of like that relationship laddering of like, okay, we've been together for 2 years. We should move in together, right? After moving in, we should probably get married, right? Like it was that kind of thinking that was just being hyper supercharged in like a 48-hour time period.
Yes, I love that term that you use, relationship ladder. So many people fall into that exact trap of like, well, we have hit this, we've done this for this amount of time. That means it is time for us to now do this. And now it's time for us to do that. And so people just kind of go up. It's almost less a ladder. It's like an escalator, right? It's like people are like, think they just need to like go up this little relationship escalator because that's just how relationships go, instead of actually meaningfully thinking about, does this make sense for our relationship? Is this actually what I want? Is this actually what he wants? And in Kylie's head, to your point, you're right, she was just kind of like, we've checked all of these other boxes that you're supposed to check off in paradise, and the last box is an engagement. And if you don't want to check this off with me, that means you must not actually love me or want to be with me. And obviously that's just not true and not actually accurate. And she was combining the kind of weird compressed timeline of paradise with things that she probably hears from other couples who kind of are in disagreement about marriage and engagement timelines. Because she kept saying things like, if you don't see it now, I don't know if you ever will. I'm like, after 2.5 weeks? After 2.5 weeks? What are you talking about? Like, baby girl, like maybe if it's been 6 years, then you could maybe, that might be a statement that could be relevant. If you don't see it now, when will you ever see it? But it's been 2.5 weeks. And I think that she knows that too. This is also her being dense and obtuse, right? She's being dense about it because like she knows obviously it's not the same as a couple that's been together for a very long time and actually knows each other really well. Like she knows that it's not the same. And I don't know why she was bringing up, it was like she was saying these lines that maybe other couples might say when they're in a similar situation, but in a long-term relationship. When are you going to be ready? You're almost 30. Like, what? Like, what are you talking about? When did he ever say this is about where he is in life as opposed to where he is in this relationship? She's just not really thinking really contextually about what is happening between her and him, as opposed to where she thinks couples are supposed to be at this point in the relationship in paradise. And so, yeah, she's like it's like she's trying to follow a storybook guideline instead of actually tapping into where her relationship is with Aven. And both of them are being so frustrating. Like, I'm not surprised that Aven was so frustrated with Kylee, and I'm not surprised that Kylee was so frustrated with Aven, because I think they both kind of sucked at this conversation.
Yeah, I do think that there was something about Kylee that was thinking about the exception to the rule of maybe we're madly in love with each other, and maybe we are one of those couples that just move super fast, take that leap of faith. I understand that perspective looking into it, but there has been nothing about Kylee and Aven, at least what I've seen on TV, that felt like they thought it was that kind of connection where they needed to move faster, do things quicker, promise things to each other, make a serious commitment. They seem like a very lovely, well-matched couple. They're just kind of like exactly the right energy and vibe and personality and maybe lifestyle for each other that makes a very good, solid relationship. And that kind of relationship may take time to really deepen and really establish that connection where an engagement and that escalation does make sense. But I think that she was almost trying to fit that paradigm that they had into, I will use like maybe Brandon and Serene as a couple, or maybe Serena and Grocery Store Joe. I actually think I have met my husband on the show. I didn't feel like Kylee and Aven had that energy. They definitely could over time, but it did feel like they were just really relaxing and enjoying their time on the beach, which is nothing negative or anything to look down on. It's just a much different pacing than other relationships. So that was something that Kylee was not being extremely thoughtful about. She was almost like, why are we not one of these couples, or why are we not moving this escalation versus are we even the kind of couple that would do that kind of thing?
Right. It's like it's envy or jealousy. It's one of those two things. It's like she is seeing what other people has and she's like, I want that. I should have that. Instead of actually looking at what she has and having some appreciation for exactly what it is. Because yeah, her and Aven seem like a perfectly good couple that could have long-term compatibility if they just give it the time, because their relationship is different from every other relationship, right? And it never makes sense to look at your own relationship and say, why aren't we like that couple or like that couple or like that couple? It's because you're not. You're different people. Like, this is something that I know so many people have this. It's a bad habit. I mean, I think everyone has some form of this where you kind of like look at how other relationships are going and you think that your relationship is supposed to match that. But the truth is every couple is different. Every relationship is different. And we don't need to keep up with the Joneses or whatever it is, right? We don't need to keep up with what other couples are doing because the things that are going to make sense for us are not going to be the same as what's making sense for other people. One thing I will say about Kylee is that there were a few specific things that she said in this engagement, these different engagement conversations, that actually to me felt like red flags, things that if I were Aven, it would really put up the stop signs. Just a few of the ways that she described this tension between them, it just really had quite a lot of selfishness in it. The phrasing of like, why won't he just do this for me? Why won't he why isn't he willing to sacrifice that for me and just do it? Like the way he was like, she was talking about that engagement, it did feel very, it's like as if this is something that is for her, that he is doing for her, as opposed to thinking about it as together they're taking a next step. It just felt like a very self-centered way to think about this engagement. And to me, if I was Aven, I would be a little bit freaked out to think that it's really, to her, more about her getting something she wants as opposed to them together deepening their relationship, which is what an engagement is supposed to be about, right? And I would say like the worst thing of it all was she said something along the lines of, to the camera, not to his face, but she said something along the lines of like, I laid in bed praying, please have him wake up as a different person. And that's a painful thing. Like if I was Aven and I heard that, that is, if you're hoping that your partner wakes up as a different person, then there's a chance that you don't even actually authentically love that person in real life. It's like you're in love with like a fantasy and you're taking a real life human and just trying to like shove them into the mold of that fantasy. Like I would just be so devastated to learn that my partner was praying at night hoping for me to wake up as a different person. Like if I ever heard my partner say that about me, I would be just devastated, because to me that would mean they don't truly love me for me, for who I am. And so there are a few things that Kylee was saying that I will say made me concerned about them as a couple. It might just be a maturity thing, and maybe, as she has more life experience, maybe that she'll grow out of some of that. But some of that stuff, if I'm Aven, I would be it would give me quite a bit of pause.
Yeah, that's a really good catch, what she said in her ITM, because I think there's this idea of like potential in a person, of I see them and they can do this, we can have this relationship, it can feel like this, and I understand that. But change has to happen on the individual level. It has to be something that they desire. There has to be a goal that feels authentically true to who they are and what they want. And for Kylee to see Aven like that, I'm not saying this is how she sees him, but there is a potential that she wants him to be an entirely different person, meaning she probably shouldn't be dating the guy, because if she wants him to be a person that does get engaged after 2 weeks, and that's not Aven, then that's not Aven. And it's not fair to judge him based on that ideal and that standard that she has in her brain, because I'm sure she could probably find someone that would be able to give her that commitment that she's looking for and take that risk, take that leap of faith and do it with their full chest. There's absolutely men out there that can meet that expectation for her. And Aven is not that guy. And it's nothing about Aven or anything negative. It's just he wants to be thoughtful and measured about what he's looking for in a match. And I noticed that she was doing it a little bit about Rachel. Like, oh, you were willing to get engaged to Rachel. Like, you were thinking of these things. And I also think it's not fair to compare someone's past experiences to where you're currently at, because then there's a constant comparison, constant evaluation, a constant scoring system that you're putting your partner through. And it shows a lot about her presence in the relationship. She is very past and future oriented. And if you're kind of thinking from a place of what happened back then, what could happen in the future, you're in a constant state of anxiety, because those two things, the past has already happened and the future is completely unpredictable. It's really based on the actions you're doing in the present. So no wonder she's spinning, because she's not even really like grounded and connected to her body and the experiences happening in the moment, because she is just kind of like, what if, but maybe he did this, he did that, my friends are doing this. It's constant comparison and spiraling that she is definitely going through. So no judgment towards her and Aven. It just was so clear that dating that they're in, they can really co-regulate together by just kind of communicating about these things and being clear about where they're really at, and being okay of disappointing each other, because I think that's another thing. It's okay to disappoint each other, and it's okay if someone's feelings are hurt if you're being honest about where you're at. Does it suck to hold in the moment? Totally. Will it make you feel better, and will it make your relationship feel like it's a relationship where you can be your true selves? Yes. So that's a little bit of where I see Aven and Kylie's relationship hopefully going if they decide to be together, because that's what it'll take.
That's really beautiful, that idea of, it's okay to be disappointed in each other. I've never really thought about that. And I think disappointment is a feeling that people are so afraid of in relationships. I think people are really afraid to disappoint their partner, or when they feel disappointed that their partner is different from what they had thought, or what maybe they would have envisioned for a partner in their head, when you have just like that discrepancy from reality to expectation, the discrepancy, that's what the disappointment is. And people really panic when they feel that in relationships. But you're so right. That's just the nature of it. People will always surprise us, and we're not all perfect clones of each other. Aven is not this dream guy that you created out of your brain. He's a real life, breathing human being with his own quirks and weird ways of thinking that are different from hers. And so, just being able to sit with that disappointment and accept that as just like a natural part of human relationships will help us feel a lot more at peace, and also help us really look at our relationships for what they are, and not like bolt out of them just because you felt like a little hint of disappointment at some point. It's okay to feel a little hint of disappointment at some point.
If we expect our partners to always give us positive emotions, I think about this a lot in therapy. A lot of therapy is understanding that if we can feel our emotions, the bad and the good, that means we can feel all of them. And if you're able to be with the partner through any emotion that you're having, you can go through any situation knowing that they're like the secure base that you can always rely on consistently to help you, support you, and be there for you the way that they can be, because these emotions will pass. Like, Kylee will move on from this disappointment. It seems like she did when she got off the beach with Aven. It's another thing if she uses it against him, if she has not moved on from it, if she like needles it and like brings it out during fights. That is another like very common recurring relationship cycle that can happen in these dynamics. So that's totally another thing, but it was very clear that they both were so disappointed with each other. I think in that car ride, it was not the ending they both anticipated. Like, the way they got off the beach was not anything close to what they had envisioned. Like, Aven did not think that Kylee was going to be like that, and Kylee was disappointed with who Aven actually was.
Well, I hope, to your point, that they'll be able to learn how to manage these complicated feelings with each other, learn how to really just talk about what they actually want and are looking for out of relationships, get on the same page about an engagement timeline if that's what they both want. And fingers crossed. I do think their energies are so aligned. I really do actually feel like I get them as a couple, as opposed to other couples, which we're going to get into, I don't fully get. I really feel like I get Aven and Kylee. Like, there are two people that I would, in my head, just like if I'm playing matchmaker, I would literally
put it together.
Right? Like, it's like if they're like little dolls, I would just smash their faces together, right? Because it makes sense. So I hope for the best for them. I hope they're both able to learn a lot from maybe watching these scenes back and grow from this experience and have deeper conversations about what they're both looking for.
Do you think Kylee and Aven are going to last outside of the beach? And have you ever been in a dating situation like this where you were not totally on the same page of your expectations with your partner? Let us know in the comments down below. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please give us a thumbs up. It really helps us out a lot.
Okay, let's get into our next couple. Let's talk about John Henry and Kat, because I think this was one couple that a lot of people had the most charged feelings about. I think that in a lot of ways they were a very unexpected couple. So these two end up getting engaged at the end of the season. They're kind of the ending, the happy ending that we're presented with by the show. They're the final couple that we see get engaged. Part of me is like surprised to see it, but part of me also felt like this was building up. They had kind of started building up that Kat and John Henry were pretty serious about each other, like the show and what we're seeing from them. And it doesn't surprise me that these two people in particular would be willing to get engaged so quickly. Neither of them strike me as the most, maybe that they would be the most interrogative. Like, I don't know that they would interrogate the strength of their relationship with the most vigor. So I'm not totally surprised that these two would get engaged. And they are a little bit of an opposites attract kind of couple in a lot of ways, right? Like, she's like the pretty model, like super hyper feminine, I would never touch a tree in my life kind of girl, and he's very much like, I live in the dirt, in the water, I am in the ocean covered in salt at all times. They're so different, and maybe that's why it works so well. I don't know that I would say I think that they have long-term potential, but I also wouldn't be surprised if this relationship lasted. I just think that the way they both seem to move through relationships just seems to be just like a simpler way. I don't know, maybe their criteria isn't as stringent as for what they're looking for from relationships. And so I just sort of think that sometimes like simple meets simple and it just works. And so that's kind of what I see from Kat and John Henry. I don't know. What do you think, Julie? I'm so curious. I know you are much less confident in these two.
I do feel less confident, and it's only because, I mean, you and I were talking about this before we started filming. It was weird to see Kat, who has had such a villainous arc on the show, be presented as like the hero of Bachelor in Paradise. Like, she had a happy ending, and I think producers really came in clutch with the final edit of Kat in terms of making her more likable, more relatable, and almost hoping to present a different side to her, which of course we know that she has. We know she's a multidimensional person. It was kind of bizarre to see or to hear John Henry saying, you're the nicest person. I see how you're always there for your friends. Like, you're the first one that's always, you know, helping everybody. And I mean, Kat is a nurse. Kat is in the helping profession. So some of that does track. But really what I thought about when I was watching the episode was the only reason I don't think they're going to make it to a marriage. I know they're moving in together. I know that they're engaged, but it feels like John Henry and Kat just really like each other in terms of they like the idea of being in love, and they like the idea of being in love with each other. And that was a little bit evident when Kat was talking about her past, and she had like a really sad past, like living in a group home, not really being able to share that story with a lot of people. He didn't run away. I think that he did a very kind, human, gracious thing, which was listen to her and just really be there for her and not judge her for that story. And it's almost John Henry implicitly understands me. I'm so into this guy and how he is so kind to me. This is exactly the kind of guy that I wanted to be with. John Henry and Kat kind of meet each other's expectations of what they're looking for in a relationship enough. They kind of fit into this idea. John Henry is kind of projecting kinder traits onto her, because I do think that she has a
I had the same thought. Sorry, continue, but I had the same thought.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hear what you think. I kind of think it's one of those things where if someone is so mean to other people, but then they're nice to you, you think maybe there's something about them. Maybe this is, I'm special. Maybe I'm the exception. Maybe I'm just getting to know who they really are and they're really soft. And I get that. I think that's the trope in every single young adult like romance novel out there, you know, like this person that has this steely, mean exterior is really just a soft heart wanting to be loved. And there is truth to that. And that is why people really love that idea. It was also a little bit of a beige flag, I'll say, at the end when John Henry said, "My gut is telling me this is not the right idea, but my heart says to follow it." Like something about the gut that is so important for everybody to know is that the gut is literally called the second brain because it's picking up all of these signals and cues in the environment, and it's intelligent. It's intelligently designed to have us trust our intuition. It's a knowing that exists within us. So for John Henry to say, "I see that, I feel that, but yet you're in front of me. I am infatuated with you. I think I love you. You're so hot. You're so pretty. I really love how we connect. You're so different than what I expected." It seems like he was caught in this whirlwind of emotion. He was like, "I'm just going to follow my heart anyways." And then they said, "I love you" to each other after the engagement. That was also a little bit, it was kind of weird for me to see that. I would hope that they would have had a quiet moment to themselves. For it to be so heightened felt a little bit akin to when a Bachelor lead takes one of his dates like skydiving. The adrenaline of that moment of just being so enthralled by somebody, packed in with hugging someone that you're attracted to, it just makes your body feel so confused. John Henry and Kat were just being hijacked of all of this emotion, all of this like oxytocin, dopamine, endorphin, and they're wrapping it into like this really big moment.
Yeah, I think you bring up so many good points. I do think there is a layer of, I don't want to say superficiality, but just a layer of, I mean, they're both very beautiful people. They're a very beautiful couple to watch, like make out. I'm sure it's just like so fun for them to just be this like pretty couple rubbing on each other. Like, I'm sure they're
hot. They're so hot together. Yeah.
I'm sure it's like such a great vibe. And then you're right. I feel like John Henry is almost like bringing out the like kinder side of Kat. Funnily enough, I think he also kind of did this with Olivia. I feel like he kind of brought out Olivia's softer side too, because Olivia was being, I think she's like a little bit
she's spicy.
harsher, maybe a little bit of like a spicier person in other contexts, and especially prior to her relationship with John Henry, she was a lot spicier with many of the other people. But then he like brought out this like soft, sweet side of her, and he kind of did the same thing with Kat. And I do think that there might be an element of, because John Henry has directly said to Kat that he sees her that way, that he sees her as this like sweet, caring person, that she might lean more into that in a certain way. You know, people always say, like, you make me a better person. I actually think that could end up being true for these two. Maybe. I don't know. I could really go, I can totally see it the way that you're describing it, where things just, like, they eventually actually get to know each other for real, and then this perfect, like, facade crumbles and they see their incompatibilities for what they are. I could totally see that happening, but I could also see it going the other way, where it's just like they're just so happy in their little dream world of this little relationship that is so functional, and this guy who sees me as this really sweet person, and oh my god, the hottest woman in the world is interested in me. I need to like make sure that I really treat her well. And I think they could just like really build on that and just keep being good to each other. Like, I can also see that as something that could happen for them. I could see it going either way. I don't think that I have like a very strong kind of prediction for how this relationship will end up. To your point, because Kat had she had so many not so kind behaviors on the beach, and just so many like bad interactions with other people, it's very hard. I was finding myself really struggling to root for them. I was finding myself really feeling like frustrated seeing them get this happy ending storyline. And, you know, it just comes from a place of wanting to see people who are kind and good to people get the happy endings, and not see like the mean girl win, right? This is like seeing Regina George get the guy at the end of Mean Girls. Like, that's what this felt like. And not that I think Kat is overall like de facto a mean girl. That's it. That's all she is. I think, to your point, she has layers, etc. It wasn't the most satisfying to watch. And that's why I think in the moment I was more inclined, I was like, fuck, that there's no way this can last. But I do think, thinking more big picture, like, I can see the two of them just kind of like continuing to build on this squishy little thing that they have started with, like this squishy little, we feel so good around each other and we want to be nice people when we're around each other. I could just see them kind of building on that.
You make a really good point. I can see them lasting based on what you're observing. It was cool to see some of Kat's kinder sides, but it doesn't erase all of her past behavior, because she didn't have a redemption arc that would have felt satisfying to then see her get engaged. Like, she didn't apologize to Tanner or Brayden. She just stood her ground, and eventually, you know, things moved on because the beach moved so fast and everybody started dating other people, and it just was what it was. But yeah, like, I guess I don't feel really strongly about John Henry and Kat. I was just literally so surprised.
To me, this is a great reminder that when it comes to who finds themselves in relationships and who doesn't, I really do think that there is some amount of randomness involved. Mm-hmm. One question that I see a lot among single folks, and specifically single women, usually like in their later 20s, 30s, who like care a lot about relationships, wanted to get married at a younger age. The question I see a lot is like, why me? Why am I still single while other people are in relationships? You know, why isn't this working for me when it's working for everyone else? And I think Kat and John Henry are a really good example of the fact that sometimes it's just a little bit random. I really do think that there is just some like random happenstance involved in this. Yes, there are definitely self-sabotaging patterns that some people might have, or qualities or wounds that make it hard for them to sustain a healthy relationship that need to be worked through. But realistically speaking, everyone who is in a relationship, everyone who finds themselves in a happy relationship, everyone who is married, it's not that they're all super great daters, healthy and healed and self-actualized. Absolutely not. And so, yes, like, Kat has shown lots of traits that, you know, she was my client, we would be working on. And yet, here she is in a relationship that, for all intents and purposes, looks happy and looks like it has, you know, great potential. And I won't be surprised if she doesn't change a thing about herself and ends up in a happy relationship that lasts forever, whether that's with John Henry or with someone else, because sometimes it is just random. Some people are able to just find themselves in a relationship where it just works with that person. That person is just fine with your bullshit, and you guys just are able to make it work. It's not always personal. People always think like, I'm the problem, but I don't know. I think sometimes just it's random who ends up in relationships with ease and who doesn't. So
I really love that finishing point for Kat and John Henry, because you're right. Like, they don't need to be self-aware to be loved. Anyone is deserving of love. And if they found it with each other, and they find each other and their behavior something that they can take, something that they can not only tolerate but understand and work through, then they can totally be in a relationship and it's fine and consensual and they're happy, and that's awesome for them. So it's so clear that you're right. It's like two puzzle pieces out of two entirely different puzzle boxes have found each other. They happen to like perfectly fit. And they have a different scene on each of it, but it's like, whatever, you fit into my piece and I fit into yours. Exactly. Let's just keep cobbling things together.
Yeah. That is a really good metaphor for what I see with these two.
Yeah. I think so too. I love what you said about them. It's a hopeful, realistic note about like, yeah, sometimes people like Kat just get that kind of love story and it's totally just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, for folks who are like, but why am I single and other people are in relationships? It's like, please don't think that that girl is better than you at relationships, because she probably isn't. Like, she just so happened to find someone who it worked with, and that's not on you. There's stuff that everyone needs to work on, but I wouldn't over personalize it. Like, this is a great example of sometimes it just happens.
So tell us what you all think about John Henry and Kat's engagement. We saw at the end that they're moving to San Diego and they're in a happy engagement. So do you think they're going to last? Do you guys want to take any bets? Let's talk about it down below.
Okay, so that takes us to Eliza and Aaron. They're our second couple who also got engaged at the end of Bachelor in Paradise. And these are two that I think most people thought would get engaged. They just were together from the jump at the beginning and just were really, really into each other and were just attached at the hip all season. They're like equal levels of cheesy and they love like they're like hopeless romantics and like they like the kind of traditional kind of like fairy tale storyline type of way of doing relationships. And so I do think that this is another couple. As opposed to Kat and John Henry, I don't fully get. I really feel like I get Eliza and Aaron. They are just like very similar, kind of like tacky daters to me. It's like, to me, they're both kind of cringy. And so because they're both kind of cringy, it just really works. Like everything that I really didn't like about Eliza on her season of Bachelor in Paradise, just like kind of being so tropey and wanting men to do the tropiest, most ridiculous things for her. That's all the stuff that Aaron just naturally is like that. And it's all the stuff that I was annoyed about him doing on Charity season. I was like, oh my God, you're just spouting all of these lines. It's so tacky, but it's like, that's all the stuff that Eliza loves. She loves all his little tacky little lines. And so I think that they're just so on the same wavelength that it just, to me, I was like, this is a no-brainer that these two should. Not that I don't think anyone should get engaged after 2.5 weeks. So it's not that I thought that they should get engaged, but I was not at all surprised that they did proceed in that way. So I was happy to see them both happy and like find a partner that really clicked with their style of relationships. I really like that Aaron, like that moment in the proposal where Aaron mentions that he talked to Eliza's mom because she had said that she wished her family could have been part of this moment. And so he went and he like did that. I thought that was like very sweet. Typically I like don't like it when men like do the whole ask permission thing to a woman's parents. I find it to be kind of infantilizing and I hate it. But in this moment, because we know Eliza likes that kind of stuff, I was like, you know what? This is just sweet. I think that they are just really, I was into it. I don't know. What did you think, Julie?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. They romance each other exactly the way that they like. Because in my perspective, like, and this is projection because as we're watching the show, of course, we're projecting like, oh my God, if someone did that to us, how would I feel about it? That's always the first instinct when I'm watching this. So for me, if Aaron had, or if some guy had been like, I spoke to your mom before this engagement that you're not sure about, I would just think, I don't like that. I feel like you violated me. But that's my idea about how I view that. Just like how you think it's like a infantile thing to do. I would feel like I did not give you the consent to speak to my mother. Like I would just, like that's how I would get wrapped up into it. But for Eliza, somehow that was the definitive moment that had her realize this is the man that I'm going to say yes to, because that's exactly what she would have hoped her partner would have done. It's like they kind of go out of their way to do these things that she really hopes for in terms of, you know, demanding her not to go on a date or doing these like big romantic gestures or having big moments. They do really love a moment to step into. And Aaron is more than happy to wave his little wand and be like, this is the moment. And Eliza is like, here I am. Yeah, she just steps right into it. And she's like, it's perfect. Yeah, like, this is beautiful. He's like sprinkling rose petals like on the way to having her move into this idea with him. And they both love that. And that is something that it seems like they both naturally gravitate towards that, value that in a relationship. And they found it with each other. And that's pretty rare. If we're looking for positives in all of these engagements on the beach, that is a big positive that they found that with each other, because Aaron B's behavior is not feeling forced, it's welcomed. And then with Eliza, she's not going to be nitpicking, nagging, complaining, feeling resentful that her partner is not doing these things for her that she kind of naturally expects in relationships. So they jive well, I suppose. Like, I don't know much else for from their relationship. I think that they both just have really big ideas about love. He was like, I can't wait to wake up next to her and make her breakfast. And she was, having similar ideas about what she was looking for. I think she was a little bit more doubtful. So that's maybe my only hesitation of them is, can they be in a moment that's not big but is completely mundane? Because that is most of relationships. It's very mundane. You will have big moments and then it's going to drop into these little moments, and that's going to be most of your relationship that you're going to be, living off of. So I am curious what happens when those moments are not there. But I have a feeling that Aaron is so creative that he's going to keep making all of these little things happen, and Eliza is just going to keep eating it up. I mean, they're obviously satisfied with each other in that way. So yeah, I guess I can see it working. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm with you. I mean, he just loves to be the Mr. Knight in shining armor, and she just loves to be the princess, and they just love occupying those roles. And I mean, she literally looks like a Disney princess.
So pretty.
She looks like a Disney princess. I don't know. I'm happy for them, and I was kind of sad to see in their ending montage. It sounds like they are maybe going through some rough patches in their relationship, and that they maybe are needing to figure things out. But I hope that they do, because I just think that they seem like a really compatible match. I think that your observation that because they both really thrive on big moments, I could totally see them struggling in the mundane moments of most of your everyday life. Most every day with your partner is not dramatic and swoon worthy and blah 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 blah. Most days are pretty chill. And so I would be curious to see how they transition into normal life. Unfortunately, we don't tend to get to see such things, but I hope that they're able to last. I hope that they can make it work, because they're really cute together, and I do think that they really make each other really happy, and they kind of take each other's worst qualities and they make their worst qualities into something that is the best part of their relationship. And so I don't know how I would ever meet someone who could take my worst qualities and make them into something that seems romantic, but somehow that's what they've kind of done for each other. And so I hope they can make it work.
I will say that Bachelor in Paradise was definitely the right environment for them, because it just really made sense with what they were looking for in relationships. And going back to Kylee and Aven, Kylee had a little bit of Eliza's idealism, but it wasn't met with Aven.
That's a good point. You're right. Kylee and Eliza have a ton in common when you think about it. Actually, they have a ton in common.
They have a lot. No wonder Kylee was jealous of Eliza, because I was why isn't she jealous of Kat? But it's Kat's love story was so different from hers. Eliza's was quite similar, the way that they got matched up. And I think Aaron B was someone that fueled that fantasy for Eliza, but it was Kylee that didn't receive that. And, so maybe that's why the envy was coming out. How do you feel the season went?
I don't know. Overall, I would say this is probably my least favorite season of Bachelor in Paradise. I was sad to see a lot of the people who I think are really just wonderful, sweet people, like Rachel, Jess, Blake, just people who, Olivia, people who are really, really wonderful, just didn't really get to connect with anyone and went home pretty sad and heartbroken. And then people who kind of have some not so great messages or not so great perspectives on love and relationships, and some not so great behaviors and ways of interacting with other people, like Kat, Kylee, even Eliza and Aaron. These are all people who kind of have ways of being in relationships that I wouldn't say are the most aspirational, but they're all the ones who got the love stories in the end. And so it was just a little bit disappointing to see. I don't think I would ever recommend this season of television to anyone.
I will say that the only thing that made this season so positive was getting to talk about dating, or getting to really unpack a very common dating style. I think we see this more common in casual dating versus serious committed dating. It was fascinating to see casual daters reckon with wanting to make a commitment with each other and seeing how that gets jammed together. But yeah, what an interesting season. So how do you feel about Eliza and Aaron B? Do you think that they are going to last and they're not going to be in the rocks any longer? Let us know in the comments down below, and tell us what you thought about Bachelor in Paradise. Did you love this season? Did you hate it? Want to see anything different on the beach? Let us know.
So next up we have Joey's season of The Bachelor, which I'm actually pretty excited about. I just think that the previews for a season seem very like lo-fi in a way.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem like, oh my goodness, drama, fighting, blah. It doesn't seem like that's the
Thank God.
theme. It feels a lot more, because I think Joey is a lot more of a soft, contemplative person. I kind of wonder if that's what this season is gonna feel like. That's just my guess based on the previews, and I'm so excited. We will, of course, be covering every single episode of Joey's season of The Bachelor starting on Jan 22, so make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you don't miss a video. We have tons of really exciting stuff coming up with our channel, so you don't want to miss it, and we will see you all very, very soon. Bye!